Shanti Ekambaram, President Consumer Banking at Kotak Mahindra Bank. Thanks so much, ma'am, for joining in today. Wanted your take on the budget. Your analysis of the same, and also if you could tell us this entire digitization push. How is it playing out? How is the banking space really coping up with it as well?
Hi. Firstly, on the budget, I thought it was fairly positive and a responsible budget. If you look at some of the key aspects of that, government has recognized the fact that it needs to really give public expenditure a big push in the absence of private investment, and absolutely in the right areas, which is infrastructure, rural sector, farmers, etc., which will benefit a very large part of the population. So investment is being led by the government. And hopefully that will have a positive impact on cement, steel, contract, labor, etc., which will then give a wider economic, what I call, a full hit and support. Second is really consumption by tweaking tax for MSMEs as well as putting money in the hands of the individuals who earn between 2.5 to 5 lakhs. I think it would again spur a very large, wide base of consumption and growth, which would again be positive. So there's a fair bit of in it for growth as well as some amount of consumption. At the same time, I think they are expecting a lot of buoyancy on tax collections. One, out of all the money that has come back into the banking system through demonetization, as well as an increase in taxes, as we have seen the trends in the last 2 quarters, and thus fiscal deficit at 3.2 is reasonably responsible. So when you look at it from all aspects, kickstarting some amount of growth, giving affordable housing a push, making sure public expenditure happens, making sure there are tax rates, there's a little bit of in it for everybody, and I think it will help the economy as a whole, at the same time being responsible about fiscal deficit. So I was quite positive, and frankly there was no negative news, and no negative is a positive by itself, particularly when it came to long-term capital gains tax, right, inheritance tax, gift tax, wealth tax, etc.
Now, while there
coming to digitization, I think this was one. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sorry?
No, go ahead. You were saying about.
So the second question was really on digitization. That was. Right. So that is one of the pillars of the budget again, those 10 themes that they rolled out. And here I think the government has already rolled out a lot of initiatives, and if you look at banks, whether it's POS, whether it's USSD, BEAM, UPI, all the various payment methodologies, banks have been adopting it and incorporating it in their apps to enable their customers and the larger, wider banking customer segment to be able to use digital payments. So I think the budget has again given a push in terms of making sure whether it's some amount of incentives for the equipment that goes into digital as well as pushing digital, they have provided a focus on it. I think the banks had been, even before demonetization and post demonetization, has been an even larger focus in ensuring customers are enabled to use digital form factor and medium for going about their daily life. And frankly, it's not just payments, it's about your daily life. You can do everything pretty much with it. You can pay for your grocery bills, you can book your PVR tickets, you can buy books, you can do many things. And most banks have ensured that they have rolled out the necessary backbone, infrastructure, as well as the front end for their customers. And we've seen significant adoption on mobile platform. We've seen significant uptick in debit cards, which again is a method of payment. Credit cards and others are following as we go out into the next few months.
Okay, ma'am, more questions lined up, but we need to take a very short break. We'll continue the conversation on the other. Have a follow-up to the 2 points that you make, to the 2 points you made. One, you said the budget has a little bit for everyone, but does it have enough for corporate lending to pick up, because that has been fairly lackluster? So do you think the investment push that the government is trying to do can increase the corporate lending? Does the budget have enough ammunition for that? And secondly, on the point of digitization, the budget has also proposed a regulatory body for payments under RBI. Will that in any way cap the fees that banks charge on the credit payments, on card payments?
So to answer the first one, I think corporate had expected some amount of leeway on taxation. But the large corporate did not get it, the MSMEs got it. And I think it will benefit the MSMEs. The larger perspective of corporate lending actually goes back to, is there sufficient private capex investment happening? And the answer is clearly not, for 2-3 reasons. One, if you look across segments, there is still some amount of unutilized capacity. Whether you take cement, you take steel, you take many core industries, there is still some capacity utilization pending. So as the economy grows and demand starts filling up, you will see more new investments coming, which will lead to more incremental lending. Second, the whole area of infrastructure, the early 2000s saw a lot of companies roll it out, but you know what has happened thereafter. So I think the government actually has taken the step to front-end a lot of the investment in the infrastructure, and the ancillary and the tertiary sectors will come from the corporate sector. So I think corporate lending and demand is sluggish because base investment, private investment cycle is not happening, and that is going to take some time. The government would start, and hopefully there would be a ripple effect that will flow and private sector investment will follow. I think till we see that, and till we see the GDP growth happening as well as deleveraging still in some large groups happen, it will take some time. Second, the setting up of the regulatory body perhaps is not a bad idea to bring about some uniformity in policies between banks, non-banks. I don't know if it will just be pricing, but it may be more policies and regulation that will make it more standardized and uniform.
All right, ma'am. Thanks so much for stopping by and giving us your take on Budget 2017. Looking forward to having a longer chat the next time around. Well, the markets have moved into the green, so that's good news. Remember, we had a good set of numbers coming in from Vijaya Bank and all.